I myself have to admit that I've been neglecting my phone for too long now. As probably most of you, I've just been using it every day, sometimes multiple hours, working with it, downloading apps, never looking at them again, and spamming my phone with random photos or memes. But now it's time to fight the clutter and get mine and your phone organized in two main dimensions, which is the content and the aesthetics. There are two key steps to organize the contents of your phone. The very first one is to review all of your current apps to see if you still need them. So ask yourself questions like, if you use and need an app at all? If yes, how often you're using it? Why do you still keep an app even though you might not be using it anymore? Or if an app is redundant with another one. So review all of your apps one by one, and if you come to the conclusion that you don't need this app anymore, or if you're using it very rarely, delete it right away. For example, I've gotten rid of apps that I have not used in a very long time or that I wanted to try out, but have never been using them again. The second step is to think about a proper structure for the apps that you would like to use going forward and keep. After having deleted all apps you don't need anymore, you should be left with the essential ones that you use most often or that you need for a special purpose. So there are 4 or maybe 5 main ways to organize your apps on your phone. And most likely, there are hundreds of other ways as well, which I cannot cover all in this video. What almost all of the strategies have in common though is that they think in categories. For example, this could be productivity, utilities, finance, social media, health, music, sports, shopping, or anything else. In any case, the key is that you are using the strategy that works best for you and that you feel comfortable using every day. Of course, the more granular you make your categories, the more you will end up having. For example, you could just use entertainment as one category, or alternatively, you might want to split this into music, TV, games, audiobooks, and streaming, or whatever. So instead of one broad, you might have 5 more narrow categories, and it's totally up to you. You might like to try the first way to organize your apps, which is by screen. That means you have set up one screen on your phone per category. Let's say I have decided to go with the rather broad categories of productivity, utilities, social, finance, travel, and maybe miscellaneous. I would create one separate screen for those 6 categories and just put all of the respective apps on those screens. This might not be ideal, especially if you have a lot of categories and your most frequently used apps are across all of them. So it might be better to follow the second approach, which is organizing your apps by folder. This means that you just have one screen and one folder per category. The advantage of this approach is that you now have a bit more compact setup with only one screen and without the need to swipe through 5 screens before you get to one of your miscellaneous apps on the very last one. But again, you might still want to have a few of your most commonly used apps even closer and more readily available. Then approach number 3, organizing your phone by row, might be the solution. You simply take your folders, which are your categories, and move them underneath each other, maybe even in alphabetical order or by importance. This is what I would do, but from bottom to top, because I personally reach the bottom apps a lot easier when just holding my phone with one hand. For example, I would move the productivity apps at the bottom left, followed by utilities, then socials, finance, travel, and miscellaneous. And now you have 3 spots to the right side of each folder left in each row where you put your 3 most commonly used apps per category or folder. Some of my favorite apps would, for example, be Todoist or Notion for productivity, Outlook or Google Chrome for utilities, or WhatsApp and Twitter for socials, and so on. If you don't like this approach either, there's a 4th major way to organize your phone, which is by hierarchy. This works in particular for Samsung devices, but I assume there should be a similar way for Apple. Organizing by hierarchy simply means that you decide what are the more important apps versus the less important ones. This is very similar to organizing by row. Now you leave the more important ones on your first and maybe second screen, whilst you move all the others to the app drawer that you reach by swiping down. There you can either leave the less important ones in their respective folders or just spread them across the page for easier access. This is, by the way, the approach I used so far before having organized my phone with you in this video. And finally, there's the fifth approach to more or maybe rather less organizing your phone, which is chaotic storage. This means you don't have a structure but have just dumped all of your apps completely randomly on 1, 2 or more screens. Now, if you're still not 100% satisfied with any of the organization strategies, there are 2 additional things to consider about. First, don't forget about the navigation bar at the bottom of your phone. There you have space for up to 4 or maybe more apps for super quick access, regardless of how the remaining apps and screens are organized. I usually have the most important apps there, for example, WhatsApp, Outlook, or Photos. And second, in addition to whatever organization strategy you use, you might want to add a specifically designed home screen at the very front, which is like your control center. So for example, if you have decided to organize your phone by row, you add an additional screen up front that you organize with your everyday apps as follows. Let's assume you know which apps those are. Now you could just randomly dump them on the very first screen, but you could also make it a bit more aesthetic and clean by using an app called Folder Widget that you can download via the Play Store. Open the customization menu by pressing on your empty first screen for about 2 seconds, go to Widgets and open and add your folder widget. Click on it to customize it and select the apps you would like to group together. In my case, I want to create a group for my most commonly used socials like Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram, my most commonly used productivity and utility apps, Google Chrome, Todoist, Notion, My Calendar, and YouTube Studio, and arrange the remaining ones nicely around. The app has many free options to customize your folder widget, but some really nice ones such as changing borders or margins or changing or removing the text are just available in the paid version. For me, this costs $6.49 for lifetime access, and I believe it's totally worth it to finally get your phone neatly organized. But as we've seen, it's not just about the content, but also about the aesthetics. And there's one final thing that you should do to make your phone as clean and organized as never before. It's changing your screensaver and background. I know most of you might have set both to a picture that you have taken, maybe the sunset from your last vacation or a nice photo of your loved ones. Unfortunately, that's not always ideal because such rather vivid backgrounds distract you from what's on your screen and make it super hard to keep an overview of your apps. That's why I would recommend using a rather clean, abstract background, which could still be a landscape picture or a graphic, like the one I have in my example. You can get such nice wallpapers from different apps, from the internet or from websites with free stock footage like Pexels.com. Now, if you like the wallpaper I use in my example, you can download it for free if you sign up to my newsletter via the link in description below. Now that you have mastered the first challenge and organized your phone, let's move to the next, maybe even bigger one, and organize your computer. So watch this video next where you'll get the guide to a super clean and organized computer to never miss a file or other information anymore.